Hello and welcome to Top 10 Reasons of Why You Should Be Interested in WoW Classic. Like, why should you give a damn? Why should you care? The reason why I'm making this video is pretty straightforward. I've been bitten by the Classic bug really hard, and what happened to me was, well, I was watching, I was looking at a tweet, and I saw this tweet in particular. I was looking at Twitter, as I often do, and Krendor, a sort of old school, very old school WoW YouTuber, just YouTuber in general, tweeted this: I have 3 gold! This is amazing, and then he has to go and buy new skills, and that'll cost about 3 gold. And what I saw in the replies was a bunch of these replies of like, why would anyone do that then? That seems awful. Or this is why we have the phrase rose-colored glasses. Everything you're feeling is just nostalgia. It's not actual real fun. Yeah, I saw that, and it's like, it was interesting to me because Krendor's been loving Classic, right? He's been enjoying it. A lot of people have been enjoying it. A lot of people have been making these videos of like, man, now I get it. I get why people wanted this. And I think this happens to just about everyone who tries it. It happened to me when I tried a private server. When a new one popped up, a bunch of people logged into it, and I got a similar experience. It wasn't the same, but a similar experience. And I realized why WoW Classic or WoW Vanilla was such a good idea, and why going back to it is going to be a profound thing. So I wanted to come up with a list of reasons of why should you care? Why play Classic? So, without further ado, let's talk.
Number 10.
Number 10's a bit of a weird one, but it's this. Don't see it as a permanent thing. Just see it as something to go and do and enjoy for a couple of months. I think it will only cost you at the end of the day the same as a WoW subscription, so if you play WoW anyway, well hey, it's basically free for you. If you don't, then it's just something to try out. I see a lot of people sort of asking the question, you know, why play WoW Classic when you know that it's just WoW Classic? It's not going to be Burning Crusade, it's not going to have anything bolted onto the end of it, or at least as far as we know. They might come up with plans for it later. I've heard that Eon, or Iron, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, the lead developer, basically said, you know, if there's an interesting Classic, then sure, they'll look into doing more things. But I see people like coming up with this, like, you're not going to see anything new, there's nothing coming out, there's no reason to get excited about it, surely. And it always baffles me, because then people say, well, you're only going to play it for a few months. And it's like, a few months? A few months? You're only going to play this thing for a few months? Like, months are a long time to play a game, right? Most games you play, you will only play for a few months overall. There's very few games that hold your attention for years and years and years. Exceptions, of course, exist, as I point to my Overwatch merch, but it's like, very few games will capture your attention in that kind of way. So even if it only holds your attention for a few months, that's pretty good. That's pretty worth it. And the thing with WoW Vanilla is it's going to do that. This is a game that has been likened to narcotics in terms of how addictive it is, and how potently it can get a hold of you, how fun it is, how satisfying it is, and how well tuned it is. So I think that the argument that, oh, well, it's not going to have anything new for it, honestly, fine. You're just going to play it for a few months, just play it for a few months. Take a look at it. It won't hurt that much.
Number 9.
Number 9's a kind of a weird one, but this is going to be one of those important things where, especially if you're considering playing it on release, there's a good reason to play it on release, which is just to be part of that moment, to be part of what is going to be a shared experience amongst Blizzard fans and amongst fans of gaming in general. Like, people can remember stuff like when the Scarab Lord was picked and stuff like that, when the Scarab Lord was unlocked on their servers, when AQ opened up on the vanilla servers and stuff like that, where they were when various events happened. The start of Wrath of the Lich King, for example, there was this big event in Warcraft where there was, you know, tons of people were made into zombies and stuff, and everything was really disrupted. But it was really exciting at the time, because like, it was just this big thing that you had to kind of be a part of to understand it. It's one of those moments where you look at it and you go, well, you kind of had to be there to appreciate like what was happening and what was going on. And I think vanilla launch is going to be similar. It's going to be one of those moments, those experiences where it's not going to be 100% fun. Let me tell you that. You're going to be waiting for mobs to spawn. You're going to be grouping up with people and stuff like that, like looking for drops and probably being very confused. But it's going to be an experience. It's going to be something that is going to resonate for months and months and months and months to come, and people are going to probably be talking about it for a long time. Oh, I was there at launch, and yeah, it was crazy, but what an experience. What a thing to be a part of. And I think missing out on that, yeah, you're going to miss out on something special.
Number 8.
Number 8 kind of ties in with number 10, which is this idea that I see people sort of parrot over and over again, which is, well, vanilla raiding was terrible, right? It was awful. Molten Core is boring as hell, Blackwing Lair is not that exciting, AQ is kind of interesting, Naxxramas is balls to the walls hard. But you know what it's going to be, and like compared to modern raids in terms of their complexities and in terms of how in-depth these mechanics are on like endgame current stuff, it's like, oh my god, it's so simplistic, it's so simple. And to that I say, and then they make the argument, well, why bother playing? And it's like, they've completely missed the point of Classic, and I think this is what Classic really does grip people with and really emphasizes extremely well, which is it's the journey and not the finish. And yeah, people talk about the endgame a lot, but what they don't realize is that in vanilla, 1 to 60, I sort of looked around a bit and tried to find some ballpark averages. There's a couple of different numbers floating around, but it's generally something like 9 to 13 days of in-game played time. Right, that's in-game time. That's not 9 to 13 days of I log in and I play for a week and then I'm almost level 60. No, that's in-game time, right? That's a long time. That's probably over a month's gameplay for most people. Like probably more like 2 months for most people. And put raiding out of your mind, right? This isn't like retail, and this is one of the great flaws, I think, of most of the modern retail expansions, which is this idea that, oh, it's all about the end game. It's all about, oh, well, I'll just blitz through the leveling experience and then WoW begins. Not like that in vanilla at all. It's very much about this measured, slow growth, this measured, slow pace of, well, today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get all the flight pass on this new area that I haven't been to, and I'm going to do these quests here that I need to finish up, and this quest in particular is going to send me all over the goddamn world, but I want to do it because it has a really good item or big experience reward at the end, and so I'm going to do that. It's very much about this sort of slow, measured thing, but what happens when you slow the game down like that, when the game is paced down like that, is you get so much more satisfaction. When you get a bunch of quests, you pick up a bunch of quests, you see one of them has a blue item, you want to do that and you'll set time aside to do that, and it will feel worthwhile because that blue item you got, if it's a good one, you're going to use for 5, 6, 7, 8 levels maybe, and that's going to represent about a week of playtime in-game, right? Or a week of playtime real time rather. So you're not like just, oh well, I'll try and do this elite quest or try and do this instant quest and then I'll throw the reward away 2 hours later because I'm 10 levels higher now and the game's just throwing useful gear at me. No, it's, I really need this item, and then when you get the item there is a measured power increase as well, because it's so unusual to get very powerful items while leveling. When you do get one of those items, it's a big deal. This is why, when warriors do the whirlwind weapon quest and it takes them all over the world, it's worth doing because, man, you really want that powerful weapon, especially as a warrior, which is a very item-dependent class. And so to the people who like, oh man, vanilla raiding's so boring, man, remember being AFK in Molten Core? It's like they've kind of missed the point, which is that vanilla isn't just endgame raids. And if you are bored of endgame raiding, or if you are bored of raiding vanilla and you don't want to do it, then just do the leveling experience, have a good time, make some friends, say hey, do some PvP here and there, and then go and play a different game. Like, you don't have to see this, and this is where it harkens back to that number 10 point. You don't have to see this as a lifetime investment. You can just play this for a few months, if that, and have a good time.
NumberSeven.
I hope everyone appreciates what I'm hoping is a very cunningly voice modulated but still American accent sounding numbers that I'm doing. Amazing. Number 7 is simple. World PvP. World PvP died in Burning Crusade, pretty much. Once everyone started getting flying, you never really saw people out in the world. There's a reason why World PvP was a big deal in vanilla, and you have all the Terran Mill and South Shore stuff, but it didn't exist quite so much from that point onwards. It still kind of does. You still kind of get occasional like zergs and raids, and honestly one of the things that BFA has kind of done alright is like incentivize big groups of enemy faction roaming around areas where you can go and fight them, and you get these little flare-ups and little skirmishes, and that's quite fun. But it's still not really to that same level and degree. Part of it is because, well, the servers just don't run the World PvP as well. There's an actual like in-game example when various streamers managed to basically come to fisticuffs, and so naturally they had big raid groups form around them, and there was this huge fight in Arathi, and there's like over 100 people there, and the servers are running like silk. They are running perfectly. mapping every ability, doesn't look laggy at all, it looks like everything is working beautifully, and it's like that just fills you with such hope that yes, you are going to see large-scale PvP, and especially because I've heard that battlefields might not be around for quite some time when Classic unveils. World PvP is going to be the way that people farm PvP, the way that people do PvP, and for that you're going to see people going to places like South Shore and Taran Mill. You are also, of course, going to see gankers, but gankers can spiral out into their own fun events, and honestly, if you don't like gankers, you can go and play on one of the PvE servers. If you don't mind it, you don't mind it, but I think it's also all part of that experience as well. There is something unique to how World PvP works and how it feels when you get a good Zerg going and when there's incentives to do it. It feels very special. When you're following behind, especially someone who has a high warlord or a field marshal or a grand marshal rather, and you're following behind this person with amazing gear and people healing them, seeing those moments and seeing people just clash into each other, seeing a high level warrior with tons and tons of gear with people just spam healing him, clear out tons of people because he has all the gear, then it feels like you're in a heroic battle. It feels immersive, it feels good, it feels wonderful, and it doesn't just feel like a laggy mess that it kind of turns into on retail.
NumberSix.
NumberSix is a simple one, and I'm probably not going to spend too long on it, which is nostalgia. Let's be real, nostalgia does play a role in all of this. If this was unveiled as an entirely new project, it would feel very quaint and kind of silly, but revisiting places that honestly don't exist anymore because of Cataclysm is going to just be a nice trip down memory lane for some people. You'll find it when you're watching things or when you're viewing content around Classic that you get that feeling of, man, I miss that feeling, and recapturing that for a moment, honestly, it's not a bad thing.
NumberFive.
Number 5 is, again, it sort of harkens back to point 8 and point 10, which is the idea that basically vanilla WoW is hardcore but casual. What? And what I mean is this. It's actually not that hardcore. I'll talk to Stylosa, for example, who played EverQuest for ages, and EverQuest was way more hardcore than WoW ever was at its height. EverQuest demanded so much of its players. WoW never really did. But vanilla WoW demands a lot more of you than retail WoW does at the moment, especially during the bulk of the leveling content. You have to pay way more attention. You can't just run into a pack of mobs, just hit all your buttons and everything's dead, and maybe if you're even slightly worried you'll pop a cooldown and everything will be fine. It doesn't work like that in vanilla WoW. You have to pull one mob at a time or pick out 1 or 2 patrols. Maybe you can fight 2 mobs. If you pull 3, you're getting the hell out of there. If you pull 2, you might have to blow a cooldown or 2 to survive. It becomes very, very engaging when you know that these quests are going to be difficult. It incentivizes all sorts of other things as well, like forming groups, but mostly it just makes you pay attention and it makes you appreciate how difficult an MMO can be and then how engaging it can be when it has some difficulty. And I think that retail WoW sort of put itself in a corner now where it's become so easy and people are so used to playing it so easy, so quickly, and so steamrolly that it's become you don't want to be the guy that made WoW hard again, because everyone who's used to it being easy is going to get frustrated and start quitting. But I also say but casual because you can do this all on your own. You can do this all on your own pace. You can do this all to your own settings. You don't have to be the guy who spends all day farming to go and raid Naxxramas and have flasks and potions and everything he needs to do that. You can still play it and just play through Molten Core. Maybe go to Blackwing Lair, which has some of the slightly more complicated mechanics, but nothing there is really going to demand much from you. And so there's this nice balance, I think, and harkening back to point 8, harkening back to point 10, you don't have to play it forever as well. So, once you had your fill of Blackwing Lair, you probably don't have the patience. If you are a more casual player, you're not going to have the patience to maybe go on to AQ40 or go on to Nax, and so you're probably going to go, okay, that's enough for me, and then you can move on to another game. Whatever, it's chill, it's fine, it's classic.
NumberFour.
Now we're getting into the heavy hitters of why you should play this game, and NumberFour is a doozy. NumberFour is a real big one. Why is NumberFour so big? NumberFour is community building. This is something that always grabs people. It grabbed me when I played on a private server, it's grabbing people constantly in Classic, but it's the way you interact with other people in vanilla is so different than how you interact with people on retail. It's unbelievable, because on retail everything is streamlined, but the streamlining is so good that you don't actually have to ever say anything to anyone else to do something. If you and 2 other people are questing in the same area and you all start hitting the same mobs, then you'll still get quest progress. You'll get your own drops, and as long as they contributed or you contributed contributed to it, you'll get a drop from it, and even if you're picking up items from the bodies, you'll get your own items to pick up, and it's fine, and it's all streamlined and smooth. You don't have to group up, you don't have to say hey, you don't have to group up to go and do an instance, you don't have to make any plans to do an instance, you just hit the LFG and boom, queue pops up, you get teleported to the dungeon, don't even say a word, clear the instance, done, bish bash bosh, simple. Vanilla WoW doesn't work like that. Vanilla WoW, if you and someone else are doing the same quest, you want to group with the guy because it's so difficult that being 2 people is like such a nice jump in power that you can pull 2-3 mobs at a time and clear it, and so that will speed things up. And you have to communicate a little bit as well to coordinate that. You have to communicate with people to go to certain instances. As Alliance, doing stuff in Scarlet Monastery, it's a big deal, it's a big endeavor, and I'm sure they'll all have their own similar examples. It's like a very big deal when you have to spend a lot of time going to do these things, going to do these instances, and you go, okay, well, let's figure out how we're going to do this. Oh, well, you're a warlock, can you please summon me? Which I'm sure is what I'm going to get as I plan to roll a warlock. It's a very profound feeling when you are in an area and there's 4 other people all trying to do the same quest. In retail, you wouldn't say a word to each other, but on Classic, you will say, hey guys, let's party up and just get this done. How many do you need? How many do you need? Okay. How much do you need to get this done? Okay, fine, we'll do this, and now we can pull the entire goddamn place and kill it, no problem. You will find yourself naturally talking to people, and you'll see those people over and over and over again as well. I know that layers exist in Classic, but hopefully the servers were, there's no cross-server stuff. People aren't just going to disappear and reappear. You should still be seeing the same people over and over and over again, and when you do see them, you'll go, oh man, yeah, I grew up with that guy and did quests here. Oh, I know him. Hey, how's it going, dude? Yeah, let's do this. And you'll see them over and over again because they should be around the same progression speed as you, unless you're some kind of power leveling maniac like I intend to be. And it's a big deal because when you start seeing the same people over and over again, you start seeing them more and more and more. You start building up relationships, you start building up a community and a sense of community, and I think that died in WoW so long ago. You can play through current WoW so easily, so silently, and even for people like me who are somewhat introverted, they don't like engaging with other people too much. Being pushed out of your shell here and there is no bad thing. Being pushed out to say, hey, how's it going? Yeah, let's try and do this, isn't necessarily a bad thing. It encourages being sociable, it encourages being part of a community and part of something greater, and I think that Vanilla does that incredibly well, and it was a big part of the game design to try and push you into making guilds, trying to push you into making groups, and with that incentive, it's a good chance to be a part of something larger, and that is a really cool thing, and I think it's a really good thing and a really good part of the game.
Number 3.
Number 3 is another weird one, but I like this, which is that nobody is going to make another game like this. Nobody on the planet is going to make another game like WoW Classic. It's too slow, it's too clunky, it's too old-fashioned in its design principles. There is not going to be another game made like this because no new developer is going to think, you know what, we should emulate WoW Classic. That's the experience we should look for, because people just won't trust it, people won't buy into it, people won't spend the time with it. With WoW Vanilla or WoW Classic, you are looking at something that is not going to come around again. Unless, and this actually feeds onto number 2, unless there's a very clear demand for it, unless people do show and demonstrate that yes, this kind of pacing, this kind of slower curve, this kind of lower power level, but incrementally getting stronger, is something that people really enjoy, that not everything is optimal for you, so you have to optimize yourself a little bit. So that gives you a feeling of identity when you're doing it right, it gives you a feeling of accomplishment. And I know that developers fear the idea of like trap talents and trap specs and trap choices, basically, wrong choices and things like that, but when you see people who have no idea how to optimize, but they're still doing tons and tons and tons and tons because the game's made it brain dead for them, that's kind of frustrating, and it makes everyone feel homogenized when everything kind of plays the same and does the same and works the same. In Vanilla, that doesn't happen. Things are not optimized, things do not make sense quite often. And you're going to have to learn how to find those optimizations, and when you do, you become better at the game, and it's part of being better at the game. The slower curve, the slower pace, the push towards grouping, the lack of streamlined time-saving features, hopefully the lack of microtransactions involved in the game. Like, there is no great call-out for this sort of gameplay aside from WoW Classic, and unless people play this, you aren't going to see it again. You're going to see more games like WoW Retail, like those sorts of games that are very streamlined, that don't do any of the stuff, that don't encourage community building, that don't encourage grouping, and as a result, the MMO genre is probably going to suffer, and as a result, you're going to see it go away and die inevitably. And I think that's a shame. I think that's a loss. I think there is a place for this style of game.
Number 1.
It's not 2 and 3 kind of together there. Number 1 is simple. Number 1 is because it's fun. It's a fun game, right? Like, this is one of the fastest selling games in the world. This made a huge splash in the same way that Fortnite kind of made a huge modern splash. WoW made a huge splash across the entire gaming sphere. No one had ever seen anything like it before, and there's a reason for that. And the reason for that is simple. It's very, very fun. It's got a slow, meaningful feeling to everything you do, and you find it very satisfying to go through these zones and find these items and meet people and do all these things, and it's just a fun experience overall. And the main reason why you should play WoW Classic is that it's gonna be fun. And sure, there's gonna be moments of frustration, but I find that small frustrations lead to great source of enjoyment when you do accomplish things, when things do start going well, when things do start mattering. You will find it so satisfying and so much sweeter for all the little trials and tribulations. When you first get your mount, it's going to feel like a gosh darn occasion. It's going to feel like something incredible happened. When you finish your profession, when you get your profession to a max level, it's going to feel like you really worked at it and you got something out of it, and now you can maybe start making some money off it, or you can start using it for whatever uses you want to use it for. When you first get the full clear, or when you first get your first tier item or complete your tier set, you are going to have to work at that and build that up, and it's very fun and satisfying as a result. The game is fun, and honestly, I can't wait for it. And maybe it is just wistful nostalgia. Maybe I will get tired of it and fed up with it in a couple of months' time, but until that happens, I'm probably going to be enjoying myself. And that's what really matters. Alright guys, so there is my list of reasons why you should be interested in WoW Classic. That's at least why I'm interested in WoW Classic. Hopefully you guys kind of agree with me. And if you have your own reasons of why you're interested in it, maybe you just really like the old models, maybe you really want to go and just see the specific zone again, maybe it's the music. Oh god, I didn't even list the music. The music. I'll no doubt have some of it playing in the background, but it's just brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And yeah, I'm looking to do more WoW Classic content, so don't be surprised if you see it start popping up. I'm pretty excited about this game in a way that I haven't been excited in a long time about a lot of things, and it's really sort of dug its claws into me and isn't letting go, which is probably a good sign, probably a bad sign for me in general, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, let me know why you guys are excited about WoW Classic. Did I miss a major reason to go and play it? Is the major reason just because, is the main reason you want to play it that you just really want to stick it to J. Allen Brack, who said famously, you think you do, but you don't? Well, it seems people do. It seems to be kind of sweeping the internet in a way that I haven't seen something sweep the internet in a long time. Alright guys, thank you for watching to the end. As always, it's very, very helpful to leave a comment, a like, and hit the sub button. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. Alright guys, thank you for watching to the end. I'll see you next time.